Okay, your next step is to sew around the outside edges of your project. Remember that you're going to be using a 1/2 of an inch guideline, so every place you should have a stitching line that is 1/2 of an inch away from the cut edge. You also should have had your marks to refer to so that you know when to turn your corners. As you finish sewing around that edge, I want you to take your project and fold it over so that the two flaps are against each other. Fold one flap back just a little bit and then line the edges of your project up and check to see that the lines on the top flap are equal to the lines on the bottom flap. If there's any variation in these lines, you're going to end up with flaps that are not even, and you'll have to go back eventually and fix it. So check it now so that you don't have to go back. Here's an example of one that did not line up very well. So I've taken my top flap, my bottom flap, I've lined them up, I've lined up the sides, and you can see that my sewing line, especially on this side, my sewing line is really off. So I would need to go back, and actually, as I look at it carefully, really on both sides, the lines are off. So I should go back and make this line even with the line on the other half of the flap. So if this is my stitching line, this is where it is on the top flap. So the stitching line really needs to be right here on this side of the flap. And over here, my stitching line needs to go here so that these two are equal. And I hope you can see how far off I was on that one. Okay, once you've made sure that those flaps are even, then you are going to go around your project and you need to zigzag stitch. Now the zigzag stitch doesn't have to be really close together. If you put it too close together, you're really just wasting your time. So space it out, set your stitch length so that you've got some space in between the points of the zigzags. Okay. And you're going to do that all the way around your project. So it should go through both sides, obviously, of your project. At that step, after that step, I should say, you need to take your project and remember to cut into the corners. Cut very closely, but make sure that you don't go through the stitching line. If you go through the stitching line, you're going to have to go back and re-sew. Use the tips of your scissors and put the tip of the scissor right up to the corner and then just make a cut. If your scissors don't cut easily, and so you're trying to use the whole blade, you're going to end up cutting too far. You want to use just the tips of your scissors. Cut right into that corner. Okay, so it should look like this. On the other corners, you're going to trim off the excess material. So cut across the corner, close to the stitching but not through it. And then your material is thicker than mine, the one I'm using for sample. So you may also want to go back and cut a little bit of the side corners. Now, on the inside, it's looking kind of strange, but on the outside, cutting your corners this way will make the turning or the corners lay flatter once they're turned. Okay, so straight stitch. You can do the zigzag first, it doesn't matter, but you're going to zigzag, then you're going to sew a 1/2 inch all the way around, clip into your corners, and trim off all of the outside corners. Okay, cut into the inside corners, trim off the excess on the outside corner. Then you're ready for the next step, which is to turn this right side out.